Hi everyone, Brian from Bearable Traders here. It is the weekend, Saturday, June 15th. Hope everyone's having a good weekend so far. And of course, this is the weekend video. We'll take a look at what happened last week in the markets. Quick review. There was lots of stuff going on. And then we'll take a look ahead and see what we got coming up for this shortened trading week. We've got Wednesday as a holiday. And other than that, we do have some interesting things to look at. So let's get down to it. Okay, so let's start out with a quick review of what happened last week in the markets. There was lots of good news on the inflation fighting front this week. Both CPI and PPI data came in a little lighter than expected or flat. And of course, consumer sentiment that was reported on Friday also dropped significantly, much more than was expected. So obviously, this gave the bulls a lot of reason to celebrate, possibility for some rate cuts, although the Fed in their meeting did say that there was only likelihood of one rate cut this year. But the odds of a rate cut in September did increase accordingly. And of course, the tech sector was super strong this week, as it has been. A couple of names that stood out this week that reported Broadcom and Adobe both mentioning the magic AI word, and of course their stocks got pretty significant pops, helping that tech sector move along with Apple and NVIDIA, Microsoft, all strong on the week. So you can see here the result of that. Dow was actually down a little bit. Industrial struggling a little. The QQQ, tech heavy sector, obviously up a lot on the week. SPY also put in a nice little gain there, 1.6%. And the IWM still kind of lagging here. It's been lagging all year, having trouble really breaking out. And that small cap index still struggling, as has all year. Technology and real estate, biggest gainers, obviously real estate benefiting from the drop we saw in yields. Energy and financials. Energy is another sector that's really been in the doghouse, and financials was another sector that was down on the week. The 2-year and Treasury notes, they all came down accordingly with that tame inflation reports. You can see the drop in the 2-year and significant drop there in the 10-year as well. US dollar surprisingly was up a little on the week. I think the Japanese yen, one of the main contributors, is really struggling as well there. And Bitcoin really took a hit on the week here. You can see it was trading down 65,800 last time I looked. It was up near 70,000 the week before. So anyway, that was the week in review. Okay, so before we go on here, I always like to do a quick plug for my books that are available on Amazon. You can see them there: Profiting as an Active Trader, How to Swing Trade, my oldest book, and my latest book, How to Trade Options. And you'll notice I do talk a lot about options trades in the room here, or on the video as well. So if you want to check those books out, they are available for sale. So let's get down and look at some charts here. All right, let's start out by taking a look at some of the indexes last week and our treasuries, as we always start with. And you can see here sort of a double top on the 2-year. On the weekly chart, it does look like we're starting to roll over. And of course, we were down on the week because of that inflation data that showed things kind of cooling off a little bit again, which was obviously a positive. And on the 10-year, again, big drop on the 10-year this week as we broke through some of these moving averages. And I think there's another trade to be had here, as I think we're probably going to head back, continue to head down here a little bit next week. The transports are really interesting. We had a rough day on Thursday and Friday. Reversing day on Thursday. Transports obviously something to keep an eye on. Just because it's sort of a indicator of economic activity. And you can see here really struggling a little bit. I think part of the drop was due to some more bad news on Boeing. And I'm still in this essentially a short position on calls, and still not out of those yet. But again, Boeing seems to be in the news for all the wrong reasons. The Dow kind of sold off during the week, came back, managed a little bit of a comeback on Friday, But again, really still haven't been able to break out of that downtrend. And we're sort of narrowing into a bit of a range here on the weekly, and I guess we'll see how that resolves. But we are kind of below this moving average here, 20 EMA, 20 moving average. The Qs, again, the Qs are the story. Big gap up on, I believe it was Broadcom numbers there, and then NVIDIA and all the other AI stocks got a bit as well. And then, of course, Adobe, another great, or at least another good earnings report, or at least a mention of AI, just took this market higher. So you can see here we're really getting stretched into the RSI range, but might be looking for a bit of a pullback here after this big move. Volume was pretty light on Friday, despite the move higher. Again, kind of a breakout here on the weekly. Volume not great, kind of dropping off a little bit as we get closer to those peak summer months. And again, here you can see the Qs. We made the record high on Wednesday, couldn't hold it, but we had a little bit of a pullback. But Friday, again, great number. Great way to end the week on, but on declining volume as well. Let's see how we look on the weekly. Again, breaking out, new high on the week, and volume picking up a little bit, although it is a little bit light here. And there's a story of the IWM. I think what's going on here is, people are a little bit worried. I think there's some signs the economy is starting to weaken. 50% of these companies, I believe, in the small caps do not make money. They need ongoing financing. So you would have thought that a bit of drop in rates might be a good thing for these stocks, but maybe overhanging them a little bit more is the idea that there's softening economic activity, which might lead them to be more companies in this index to be less profitable or not profitable. So a bit of a double-edged sword. And maybe the rates aren't, a quarter point drop is really sort of not that much, kind of inconsequential. So you can see here we really tried to rally this week, but ended up pretty close to the low of the week, and we did so on increasing volume. So watch out on the IWM if you have some exposure there. The VIX, really, again, we're just down around that 12 level, bounced a little bit last on Friday, and that was it. So the dollar's strong. Again, you would have thought with the declining yields, the dollar would have been a little bit weaker, but it went the opposite direction this time. And Japanese yen, as I mentioned, is struggling here. And you can see on a week, we look like we're on the verge of breaking to a new high here. Bitcoin, you can see here, Bitcoin's really kind of struggled. When I looked at it last week, I thought, we were making a series of higher lows. This pullback here looked promising. I was getting ready to get into it, but it didn't follow through. So I didn't pull the trigger on that one. I'm glad I didn't. It's kind of pulling back here. So maybe if we get back down to this moving average, this 20 moving average might be an interesting area to enter. So be keeping an eye on that because it does seem to be sort of stuck in this range. So that was it for the week. And just another quick note, and just a general comment on the market overall. You can see here it's pretty narrow in terms of the stocks that are participating in this rally compared to selling off here. You can see the NASDAQ went out pretty much at the high, and the SPY came back and finished near, at least in the green here. But if you take a look at some of the internal statistics here, advancing and declining stocks, you can see here on Friday we had only a quarter of the stocks actually advancing and 71% were declining, and of course about 3% neutral. But that's a pretty stark reality when you consider markets going higher and the number of stocks advancing versus declining, roughly three stocks declining for every one advancing. So that's new highs and new lows again here. New lows, 85% new lows, 15% new highs. Again, kind of a stark contrast to making record highs in the market. You can see here where majority of stocks are below their 50 moving average, and about even on the 20, a little bit better on the 20, but I think that this number is probably going to start to shift to the red as well. So market internals are not looking very strong, despite the fact that technology obviously is the star, but the rest of the market does seem to be struggling here. So just wanted to do that observation for everybody out there. So let's go over some positions I've been in and how things worked out here. TLT, I've been in this for quite a while. I was short the 91 puts on TLT, and fortunately, they expired actually this Friday, or last Friday, I should say, yesterday. And they went out, they were basically worthless. So I just kept the premium on those, but I've been short those for a while. And I am going to look at another trade here to put on. But you can see here we've been pretty much in a downtrend. But you can see here how we broke out right at the beginning of June. Interesting how we just pulled back. If I extended that line, we pulled back and retested that trend line and then just took off. So the TLT is the longer term bonds. It's the bond price. So when yields drop, prices go up. And you can see here had a nice move on that one, especially during last week. Really took this into the took that trade into the green. Netflix, I've done this week over week. Where Netflix is kind of interesting actually. It's I'm just waiting for it to load here. You can see here how Netflix has just broken out. Out of this trading range. You can see here a nice narrow trading range, and Friday we broke out. I couldn't figure out why. I mean, other than I don't know if it got any upgrades. I was looking for an upgrade, didn't see anything. But it this trading range here, this nice little box, we've broken out. I think it has a potential to go higher, but on Friday I've been selling these zero DTEs, or Friday weekly calls, or puts. I mean, it could have sold the puts, but sold them the 680s, and they expired worthless during the day, or at the end of the day. So again, but I think as a longer term trade, I think this looks like it could be going up to 400, and it may be either good along or trading it with options, since it is a fairly expensive stock. Amazon I was in. I got out of this trade. Doesn't seem to want to break out. Let's see what it's doing. It kind of got up close to this high here, but then has pulled back. It might, but it looks choppy. It looks like it's really chopping in a range here. So got out of it when it started to roll over there. Caesars was another one. Had a position in this. I'd taken a little bit off prior week, but really popped up nicely, as you can see here on Wednesday. Popped up nicely. Took some more profits because that was an area I thought was going to be resistance, right where we topped out here, because we did blow through this area on this nice gap up. So took most of my profits off there and took the rest of it off later in the week. So that was a nice trade on Caesars. And CRM was one I was in and again got out of. Let's wait for this to load. Yeah, it kind of rolled over here when I threw this indecision and came up to this moving average. I cut some, and then it really started to sell off back to where I got in, and basically got out of it. So CRM may actually hold here. I might actually get back into it if we can get above this 9 EMA that's on the chart here. So those were the currents and trades that happened last week. And I'm still in, of course, this BA short position. Okay, so for potentials for next week, looking at the XLK. XLK has had a really nice breakout, as I mentioned a number of times already on the video. Technology really strong. I think it's going to continue to be strong. We might get a pullback here because we are pretty extended from these moving averages right now. We've had a good week, but on any kind of pullback, I would be looking to either add to or get into XLK. Technology sector. Biggest holdings are Microsoft, which broke out this week, and Apple, obviously the strongest. Nvidia is down there. I think their third largest holding. Nvidia almost took over Apple this week in that XLK and the rebalancing of XLK, which they move their positions around depending on market cap. But Apple or Microsoft 1, Apple 2, and Nvidia a close 3. So Netflix, as I mentioned, I've already talked about, looks like it's breaking out. I think there's a potential for a trade here, maybe sell a 650 put and then use that to buy like a 680 call or something along those lines, or just go long the stock. Whatever you want to do there for a possible trade on Netflix. It is a bit of an expensive stock, so options sometimes will work better on that one. If you're not sure about it, you can always, again, check out my book on options. I mentioned earlier in the video. So you can see here, I'm looking at Expedia. It looks like it's getting ready to break out here. I'd be looking at this sort of 125 level as a possible breakout. We might get a gap fill up to somewhere around 130 before it stalls or pulls back. But I would be looking for a little bit of a pullback here to get into it. So the better risk to reward, and then use this 9 EMA as your area where you'd consider stopping out on that trade. XLY, I think the discretionary, with the way the economy seems to be continuing to soften here, getting in more jobless claims, and discretionary stocks are the ones that are vulnerable. I don't think they've really sold off that much. You can see here we're just holding this 9 EMA right now. We came down and touched the 20 on Friday. We're very close to it, so I think we're really getting to a point where we may break down. So possible short down to sort of into the 173 level, and maybe even retesting the 170 level at some point. Bros was one a stock I was in, and then it just turned around and sold off. So I got a little bit of a profit on the pop, and then took a partial, and then it sold off. It actually lost this 9 EMA, so I'm watching it here to see if because it does tend to do this. It had a nice pop up here, pulled back. So if it pulls back to the 20, I will consider getting back into Bros again. IBT, I'm still watching the Bitcoin again. If it looks so, I think I did something wrong there. Let me just get IBT back up. It looks like it's coming back down. If we can get back down to, say, 35 area, I might consider buying it in this area for a bounce back, because it does seem to be sort of trading range bound. Apple's interesting again. Big move this week on this developers conference and this promise of Apple Intelligence. They're not calling it AI. But again, I'd be looking for a pullback to this 9 EMA for a possible long on Apple. So those are some of the trades I'm looking at for this week. But technology definitely seems to be in play. Okay, so let's wrap things up here for the week of June 17th. As I've mentioned earlier, it is a shortened trading week. We have a holiday on Wednesday, so markets will be closed. But other than that, there's your indexes with the various levels of support and resistance. I think the technology sector is going to continue to be strong, even though it does look a little stretched, breaking to new highs with the SPY. The Dow and the IWM, I think, is going to continue to struggle here. to move higher given the current situation. But as far as economics events go, we do have some interesting data coming up. We've got retail sales, industrial and manufacturing production numbers coming out Tuesday. The usual jobless claims on Thursday, building permits and housing starts. So we got a number of data points on housing this week and home sales. So you can see here, Monday we have Lennar. We've got KB Homes on Tuesday. So again, more housing stuff. Wednesday, the holiday. We do have a few little interesting things here. We've got Darden, Accenture. We've got Kruger for food, and CarMax on Friday. So a few little splattings there, but for the most part, pretty quiet on the earnings front for the week. So that's it, everybody. Have a great rest of your weekend. You know, we will be starting up on YouTube live at 8 o'clock, doing the pre-market show right into the open. And of course, you'll still be able to stick with us and trade during the open as well. So hopefully see you there. Have a great rest of the weekend. And yeah, bye for now.